Hi there, my name is Corey Vanderveld. I'm a seventh grade science teacher in Columbus, Ohio, and I am here to share my action plan. So the purpose of my action plan was to increase student engagement and participation in my classroom. I know as classroom teachers across the board, no matter what placement you're in, a lot of times it's hard to get 100% of your students engaged and participating in your lesson. And it's so important to have that engagement just for student achievement and student behavior. So my goal was to research different strategies and see how students react to those strategies, see if it increased their participation and engagement in the classroom. So I actually am going to research two strategies that I have, based on my observations, have felt have increased student participation and student engagement in my 5 years of teaching. And I'm going to collect data on that just to see, because these have all been qualitative observations. So I just want to see, if it's actually increasing student engagement and student participation, and then I'm going to share that with the world. And then I'm actually going to research two more strategies based on other professionals' classroom experiences that they have deemed to be successful. And I'm going to also collect that data and share that with the world. So I'm going to share my screen for this next part, and I'm going to run through the four strategies and the data table and graphic organizer I used to inform my action plan. So basically what it was is I have four strategies that I did on separate days for the same class period. And then I have four different check-ins. So the first check-in is the introduction, the next two are the middle, and the fourth one is the closure of the lesson. So these first three strategies, these were strategies that I found online. I researched myself, and professionals had, given data that said that these strategies were successful to increase participation in their classrooms. And this last strategy is something that I use, and through my qualitative observations, I have found that this strategy has increased student engagement and participation. So looking at the data, the triadic communication strategy was not very successful in my um, research, so I chose not to move forward with that one in my actual action plan. The response card strategy, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that strategy in the next segment, but it was very successful in my classroom. The prior collaboration with intervention specialists, as I was doing this one, I just figured, this is something I'm doing anyway. I'm already collaborating with my intervention specialist that pushes it into my classroom. So I also chose not to move forward with that one and find a different strategy for that one. And then the Dino Messages one, this is one that I've already been doing in my classroom. It was pretty successful as well, so I chose to include that in my action plan again, just for repetition to make my data more reliable. So the new data, I'm going to talk, this is my new graphic organizer for my action plan. I thought this graphic organizer worked pretty well. I'm going to talk a little bit more about these strategies in the next segment, and what I'm going to do and what students are going to do. All right, so the role each stakeholder is going to play in each one of these strategies, it kind of varies per strategy. So in the small group stations, students are going to rotate through stations, and my goal is to have different forms of learning at each station. One station might be visual, the next might be hands-on, the next might be a reading station, there might be an auditory station in there. So it's one that my school is moving towards. So it is going to take some planning, just because it does take time to set up those stations up. The response cards, this is a very cool strategy and successful. So basically, each student is given a card, which I do have to make. But the card is either one side is red, one side is green, and the students lift it up to either agree with what I'm saying or say yes to what I'm saying, or they lift up the red side to say no to what I'm saying or to disagree with what I'm saying. But it makes them take control of their own learning, and makes all students really feel the need that is necessary to participate. The award system strategy. This is one I use in my classroom a lot. Pretty simple. So what I do is I take a poll at four different points in my classroom, to see if I have at least 80% of my students, or 90% on some days, that are participating and engaged. If they are not, say if I have 40% that are not participating, then they do receive a strike. If they get 5 strikes, they do not get their award at the end of the class. Usually students, after 1 or 2 strikes, they kind of get it together, and it promotes that engagement and participation. The last strategy is a virtual strategy that I've used, that was given to our district. So basically, I shoot them a message that they have to respond to in order to move through on their Chromebooks if they're doing something virtual, um, and they have to respond to it, or else they cannot move on. So that one has worked in my classroom before. I am just doing it again because I want to increase repetition, repeat the process, just to make sure that it is a successful strategy. All right, so my expected outcomes for this action plan. I am always looking for new strategies to use, and a lot of educators are as well. And I want to find new strategies that I can actually use in my classroom that are proven to be successful, that are going to increase student engagement and participation. Just as I said prior, it's something that I have always, in my 5 years teaching, I have always wanted to do is increase, make sure all students are participating. Benefits to the students and schools. So student achievement is going to go up. When you have more students participating and engaged in the lesson, the student achievement is going to go up. I researched that, but that's something that I kind of already knew. The students are participating, they're learning, they're actively learning. And the last part is student behavior. If they're participating, they're not looking for other things to do to entertain themselves. If they're engaged, they're not looking for other things to do. So their behaviors are going to increase as well. So we can really focus on the content at that point and not focus on putting out fires or anything like that. So that is my action plan.